What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be going over adding new languages inside of the localization feature inside of Ultimate Horror FPS Kit. So this is kind of complicated, so I've included the scripts necessary as well as the snip that you need to edit. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and launch into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go over to where you have your English or whatever you have. It should be like game localization or something like that. Basically, you're going to duplicate that and make a separate version, which will be another language, and you'll just like have different words in it, right? Like Spiele, play in German, and like all this kind of stuff. Just like, you know, differences. I didn't actually edit all these, but that's fine. So then you have your other version with English in it, and basically, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go here to show FPS. Now you could do this a bunch of different ways. You could have a drop down menu, you could have something like this. I prefer like this. So you're going to grab here, duplicate it, name this setting underscore language. And then in here, you're going to put your options. So mine will be English as the default value and German as the second value. And you'll see this is an integer, which means we can do a bunch of these if we want. Current value I'm going to set to 0. And then we're going to go over here to main menu. Scroll down to where it says options manager, and that shouldn't be there yet. We're going to add a new option, call it language. Drag this option behavior here. And we're going to do integer here. Default value is 0. Basically, whenever you create a new game and there's new settings, the default value will be 0. So let's go ahead and save that now. And then you're going to want to download the script I have included, but I will run through it real quick for you guys. So basically what this is doing is you have your localization asset here in an array, which is going to be your different languages. You have your game localization, and on the start of the game, it'll find your localization player or place, which should be, I believe, on the game manager or in the main menu. If there's no reference, then it'll state an error, no localization available, and we'll disregard everything. It'll just stay here. And then it will go, and we'll have an index, which will be saved to the player prefabs later on. But right now, we're just grabbing the integer here. And if we don't find one, the default value will be 0. And if the index is less than 0 or bigger than the length of the localization assets, it'll print an error and then set it back to English. And then after, it'll adjust as needed in the player prefs to be 0. And then we are grabbing this here and reinitializing the gloc and testing the language to make sure it works. And then we have here change language, which is what's going to be called. And you'll see it says change language current index. And basically what this says is that if the index is, this is the same exact thing up here. It's just an out of range error. And then it'll set the integer to whatever we have it set to in here, because this is a dynamic integer. And it'll set it up in the player prefs to remember it. And then in the localization assets, it'll set it to the current one language, reinitialize, and then test. Pretty simple programming. There is some things that are kind of complicated, but I kind of have to be a bit careful when showing you guys the actual game localization script here. So give me 1 second. Okay, so here is game localization. This is what we're going to be pasting, the little snippet that I put. It's going to be right there. And right here. So basically you're going to highlight this from the bottom of that up to this class here, and you're going to paste in the snip that I have put in and save it. And then you're going to go back into Unity, And now when you guys do this, there's going to be a couple of errors, and you're going to have to go into the other function here, and it's going to say something like, it'll say something like value dot try get value, and what you just got to do is you got to erase value and leave try get value for pretty much all of that. There will be one in utilities as well. I'll include the line numbers for all of them in the description and what to replace it with, but I can't show the entire script here. This little snip will be available in the description. It should be in a pastebin. And same with this. This will also be in the description. But so now what we got to do is we have to actually make it work. So we will add the change language script that we have created. And you can make your own change language script. It's just a handler that handles the setting. So we'll add that to the main menu. I think I added it down here, but I don't want it up there. So I like to put it right above the localization script. And I'm going to just add English and German. And then we are going to go down here, make sure this all looks right, and then go down to language. All looks right. And then right here on value change, we're going to drag the main menu canvas into there, and then change language handler. And we're going to change language with a dynamic integer, specifically this one. There's another one down here. Don't do that one. This is a static integer, which will never change, while this is a dynamic one that will change. All right, so from here, we have this set up. So it should theoretically transfer between the languages now. So default should be English, but it might actually set to German because I've done this a couple times. Yeah, so it does automatically set to German, but you'll notice that if I click English and click apply, it'll do that. If I go to German and then click back, it'll set it back to English. If I go to German, click apply, and then go back, it's in German. And if I go English, back, it's back in English, and so on and so forth. So now, obviously, what we need to do is set it to where it's in the actual game. So first thing I would recommend doing is going into your main menu prefab here, and then dragging it right into here to replace the prefab so that it has it always. Oh yeah, also go ahead and change this to language and make sure you create a, wherever the localization asset is. Let me grab that real quick. So make sure you go into English and then go down to where it has like the settings or that, and it says this. So you'll have to add a new one into settings, call it general.language, and then set the text to language, and then in German or whatever language you're doing, set it to a different one, and then go here, click on this, options, language. So I wouldn't recommend changing the titles for these keys ever because it's going to be way more complicated. So just duplicate your one that you already have and then put it in. So after that, you're going to want to go to your scenes, sample scene, save. And we're going to go to hero player. Select this, obviously, not hero player. Go to game manager. You're going to open this up. Game panel, or not game panel, my bad. Pause panel, pause panels, options, tab panels, general, duplicate show FPS again, call it setting underscore language, again, English and German. You should only have to do this twice, once in your main menu and once in this player prefab. And then we'll add the script again to this one. We'll add this right above game localization. It doesn't have to be here. It can be pretty much anywhere in the scene as long as it's on your player prefab so that it can just be the same. Oh, make sure you set them. These also should be set up exactly the same. So, for example, if English is element 0 on your main menu, it should also be element 0 in here. Otherwise, it's going to confuse them because it's not the language that's being saved, it's the index. So the index / integer / number is the thing that's being saved. So now that we have that, we'll go over here to our language one, change that to language, scroll down, change that from options, change that to general.language, and we'll go here to settings.language. We're going to drag game manager into that, click here, change language handler, change language. And then we'll go over here to game manager, scroll down to options, and then this won't be here. You're gonna do the same thing, language, exactly the same way as you typed it before. So if you did like anything, it has to be exactly the same in both because it's basically grabbing the number and saving it. So the reason we have the player prefs is as a backup so that it has a value and then it can always retain the same value, but it's just essentially a backup because it does automatically save it with these settings. So, just in case. So set to integer, default value 0, language, options, and whatnot. Should all be good. And secondary thing that might be kind of helpful for you guys is this thing right here. For some reason, it's always defaults to be bad. So I would recommend at least going for a middle and setting this to 0, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to set my current value to 3 on all these. Basically, just kind of like how you want your game to look is basically what you're doing here. And yeah, so that's just basically setting your default value here. Let's see. So now, hypothetically, if we save and play, it should all work fine. And then when we exit the game, it should work as well. Options. And it's in German, so English. And then graphics are kind of messed up right now. So apply high. Let's see. And obviously,
where am I? I don't know where to go.
If you want to change that text, you need to set it up in localization. And boop, boop, boop. Oh, objective's gone. And everything works fine. So now if we quit, hypothetically, it should be in English. Obviously, we left this open, so that's on us. But we'll try again. We'll click German. And actually, if we click New Game, I think it doesn't exactly save, which is a problem. So it won't save if we put New Game, I don't think, but it might. Okay, cool. So it did save, actually. And actually, that didn't even help the textures, I don't think. Did that work? Okay, yeah, it did work. Okay, so yeah, I think that's actually the anti-aliasing. I don't know why the textures look like that. It'll play out. But as you can see, when we play the game, it set it back to German. Now if we put it back in English, and then save the game, and then quit, it's in English. So it does transfer over. It should transfer between all your scenes as long as they're set up the same. And the final thing you want to do is go over here to Game Manager, look it up in the hierarchy, and just replace it there. And now every single one of your scenes that uses that prefab is going to have that option set in. So now it should all be perfect between each other and work pretty seamlessly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't show the coding of this script because it kind of adds an extra 30-something minutes, and most of you guys probably aren't going to code it. I wouldn't code it if someone already did it. But we did go over it, so if you want to code it yourself, just look at it and then listen to how I'm explaining it and kind of help learn there. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and ask. Other than that, have a great day.